Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Building Resilient Kids podcast with the Children's Hospital Foundation. This series taps into the Children's Hospital Foundation's network of experts, from healthcare professionals and researchers to community leaders and advocates, all willing to share their practical tips and their proven strategies for helping kids overcome life's obstacles. And hopefully it might help a few parents out there as well. My name is Sarah Greenhalgh. I'm a Seven Network presenter and reporter, and I will be leading or steering the chat today about the topic of digital parenting, which is such a big topic to tackle. And as someone who only just became a mum 6 months ago, I'm already learning that it is a very topical one amongst parents about how much screen time is too much. Is there an okay limit? How do we interact with our kids when it comes to social media and all these things? So we'll unpack it all. Joining me today, I'm delighted, is media personality and mum Emily Jade O'Keeffe, and Children's Health Queensland senior psychologist Kristen Bertschy. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Emily, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, my name's Emily. I'm a 30-year media veteran. So I've been working in radio and television, with radio being the predominant career for me. Currently, I'm on Hot Tomato on the Gold Coast. We're the number one radio station there. And I have a daughter who is 13. I have a son who's 7 as well, but we'll specifically discuss Millie as she is a digital child. She's 13 and we have a podcast together. It's called Move Over Mama, and it's the number one teen podcast in the country right now because it's pretty much the only one.
Still amazing. We won't take away from that.
Thank you. And then I do have a 7-year-old son, Teddy, and we're also a neurodiverse family. So both my kids have got ADHD and my husband's ADHD and level 1 autism as well. So, we've got a lot to navigate in our lives, and that's kind of in a nutshell who I am.
Thank you so much. Lots to unpack as we go through the chat. Kristen, what about you? Can you just share a little bit about yourself?
Of course. Yes, I'm Kristen. I'm a senior clinical psychologist with the Child and Youth Mental Health Service with Children's Health Queensland, and I work primarily with young people ages 4 up to 18 who are struggling with severe and complex mental illness. And so I provide evidence-based mental health assessment and treatment to those young people and support their families as well. I work a lot with young people who struggle with trauma-related conditions and anxiety and mood disorders, and I'm seeing firsthand the impact that the digital world is having both positively and negatively on our young people and on their mental health. And I'm a mum of 1 with another 1 on the way. And so this is a very, again, topical conversation for us to have because I'm hearing it a lot both in my professional and in my personal life, that this is something that we need to be aware of as parents.
Well, congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
And yes, I feel you because Jack is only 6 months old and already we're starting to have this discussion. Like there are screens everywhere, giant televisions,
Yes.
Apple watches, phones, and
Yes.
he is taking it all in.
Yeah, you can't escape it.
Can't escape it. So it's an inevitable challenge for, I think, anyone who has kids. I'm going to read some stats. So officially, the Australian Institute of Family Studies recommends no screen time at all for kids under 2. So that's where I'm at. Kristen, how old's your little one?
Yes, she's under 2.
Okay, under 2. So nothing. I'd like to talk about that further. Maximum 1 hour a day for kids aged 2 to 5 and no more than 2 hours for kids aged 5 to 17. But that doesn't include schoolwork. And I guess that's an important point to circle back to, Emily. I think probably most of us know that's a guideline. Maybe the reality looks a little bit different. There's all these associated risks that come along with all of it. So I guess the big question to start off with, Kristen, is can you be safe online? Is there a safe amount of screen time?
Yeah, that's a great question to kick off today's
It's a big
conversation
one.
with. It is a big one, but I think it sets the tone, right? The answer is yes, we can be safe online, but we need to be conscious of the boundaries associated with online and screen usage. So the things that parents need to be aware of is that there are different types of safety that we're talking about when we think about the digital world. So we've got things like physical safety, right? So this is, are our children protected from things like sexual exploitation or grooming, things that put their physical being at risk? Then we've got developmental safety. So is the online environment that our children are being exposed to supportive of healthy cognitive and social development that is developmentally appropriate? So are they being exposed to age-appropriate content online? Are the online relationships healthy and developmentally appropriate for them? And then, of course, we think about the psychological and the emotional safety components. So is the online environment safe and positive and encouraging for our young people? Does it promote emotional well-being? Does it allow them to explore who they are, explore different ideas, learn new skills within a space that is accepting and belonging, where they are free of experiencing any shame? So those are the components of being safe online.
So I think we hear a lot about the negatives, the risks. As a journalist, I've investigated some of them as well with the Spotlight program, things like, exposure to inappropriate content, sextortion, cyberbullying, things that have caused kids to take their lives in some instances. So some really, nasty stuff. They're all, I guess, the direct risks that we hear about. But Kristen, there are some indirect risks as well?
Yes, so you've hit the nail on the head. When we're talking about direct risks, these are the things that young people are exposed to directly while engaging with online content, social media, or just within the digital space. The indirect risks are more about the consequences of excessive screen use or social media use or technology use in general. So things like more online time spent online equates usually to less time doing physical activity. And so then we have the risk of weight gain or metabolic risks, cardiovascular risks. We also have things like poorer motor development because children aren't spending as much time developing those motor skills. Things like poorer cognitive development that can lead to learning difficulties or difficulties with attention, behavior and emotion regulation. And then, of course, we have the social difficulties that might also bleed in not only to friendships, but also into family life and the family dynamics as well.
Emily, what's been your experience with that sort of exposure?
So with my 13-year-old, we had no screens really. We just didn't have them anyway. So maybe we didn't even have an iPad. So we watched a bit of television, Frozen over and over again, but I didn't have that issue so much. With my son, it had exploded by then. And he has a highly addictive personality because of his ADHD. So we really have had to have no screens. Otherwise, it is a real battle to get them out of his hands. For all of the things you're talking about, I guess I'm a very conscious parent, and so I knew if he was going to have it, he could only have it for a certain amount of time and we had to play. And I ended up using it more as a reward. So if you go and do this for me, then you can have this time. And I used it a bit in the car for him, and that would make him want to get in the car. I'd say we have to go to the shops, and he would know that would mean that he could have his iPad because it's boring in the car, just him. But not under 2. So those guidelines I totally agree with.
Well, I was going to ask about this. So when with the under 2 thing, and I've just come from mum's group, so this is part of the reason why I'm asking. I'll report back to them, or they can listen to the podcast.
Yeah.
But is that sort of inadvertent? Walking past a TV, maybe I need to send an urgent text message, and he captures the screen, or are we talking about deliberate plonking them down in front of the TV, or are both in some way damaging?
So I think, of course, the more intentional engagement with screens is more damaging when we're talking about like structural and functional impacts on the brain, because ages 0 to 3 really are the period of life where the brain is undergoing the most structural changes and development. And so we don't want to interfere with the natural process of that. And things like screens where there's lots of attention grabbing, very reactive, bright colours, fast moving content can affect the development of certain structural processes in the brain. And so that more intentional screen time is probably more damaging. The thing that we want to be aware of is that more incidental exposure to screen time, not so much harmful as more intentional screen time, but what example are we setting? So I'm sure you both know, being mums, they watch everything.
Oh, the head goes instantly. I send a text and it's like, what do you know?
Yes, exactly. And so it's more about just narrating what you're doing. Mummy sending a text right now, and we'll go straight back to playing, rather than your little one seeing you spend time
doom scrolling.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm glad
Absolutely.
we've cleared that up.
No, it's narrating what you're doing with a phone is one of the most important tools that I learned, because they don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they just see that you have lost concentration in them, so it must be pretty good what you're
that device
doing.
is better than me.
Exactly.
Yes. So it's really important to say, I'm looking for a recipe. Do you want to help me cook? I'm messaging Nana. We're going to go visit her in a minute. Are you excited? Do you want me to say anything to Nana in this message? You absolutely have to narrate your phone use and your computer use.
That's excellent. That's really good advice. Emily, you sort of just touched on it then, but a lot of people listening might be having this challenge of how to set boundaries or rules when it comes to screens, given that they are everywhere. What apart from, making it sort of a bit of a reward type system, what have you done?
Okay, so when Millie first started wanting to be on a screen, and I don't know if boys' and girls' brains are different or if it's just my children or just all humans, but my daughter wasn't really so interested for a long time in any kind of device. She really was a crafty little girl, whereas my son, it was way more interested, and I don't know if that was because of the explosion of it. I'm not quite sure. I'm not a psychologist. But with Millie, by the time she actually wanted to be on the device for the different things like the TikTok and the Instagram and things like that, we set I guess it's a phrase, and it's really worked with us, and it was, you can't just consume, you have to create. So if we were to give her the phone for her to look at something, she would have to consume it for a certain amount of time and then create something out of what she'd seen. So being a crafty and entrepreneurial little girl, if she saw something that she wanted to create, I would take the phone off her. You've had it for half an hour. What did you see that we can create? And she would say, well, I saw this recipe and I want to make this, or I saw this science experiment and I want to make this. So it wasn't to create to put back into the space. It was to create for us. She was the kind of little girl that would pick all the lemons off our lemon tree and then sit out the front and want to sell them. So when she was, I think it was about 9 or 10, she wanted to create an Instagram page to sell crystals. She'd been trying to sell them out the front of the house. There wasn't a lot of buyers.
Funny night. Yeah.
So she could see that lots of people were creating businesses online. So she asked to create an Instagram page. She called it Crystal for Kids. I was involved with it the whole way. We downloaded Canva. On Canva, she created her logos. She took pictures in the backyard with, my phone of setting up the crystals. And it became, to be honest, the most beautiful, modern, creative thing. Kids before would, they'd make and sew. These kids, they don't sew and create so much. They're doing more of their creativity via things and applications that are online. So she created this little page, and through that page, I was actually able to really guide her to learning about social media. So it was a private page, so we set it on the private settings. When people were to follow her, I taught her who was allowed to follow her and who wasn't. The way I did that was I would look at the person with her. How many followers do they have? What sex are they? What age are they? Do they post content themselves, or is there no, have they never posted anything? Who is this person and why should we let them follow you? So we had that process for a long time, so that anyone that was following her mostly were friends and family, but if it was anyone we didn't know, we would assess. I, of course, set it on all of the settings for parents, so she was not allowed to be contacted by anyone she didn't know anyway. And that trucked along for a little while, and to be honest, she dipped in and out of it. She sold crystals here and there, but it was such a great education into what social media was. So by the time she wanted to wrap up the crystal thing and move on to a new hyperfocus, being ADHD, and she wanted to move on to, just doing her own life, she had the skills to know what she was going to do. So one of the boundaries is you are not to just consume, you are to create. Another example is when she moved on from, doing crystals, she would look at lots of recipes. So we would trick the algorithm, which is a really important tip for parents if you're ever going to let them be on social media. Make sure the algorithm's healthy and you control the algorithm.
And you can do that?
You absolutely can. It depends. So I taught her what she was allowed to like and not like, what she had to flick through. She wasn't allowed to have it without me within earshot, so I could hear something and say, that's terrible, you're scrolling through that. or I would pick up the phone and go, that's not for us. That's not in our algorithm. So she mainly has dancing, makeup tutorials, fashion, cooking, and business. She loves business. And so that's her algorithm now. She knows how to trick her algorithm too because I've taught her. But for example, one algorithm, it was cooking. And one year she wanted to make Rocky Road, and she made it for all of my work, something that she'd seen online. She made the best Rocky Road ever, and then she packaged it and sold it. And so we took what can be seen as a bad thing, and we turned it into a little, side hustle for her, but also something to do in school holidays that was so creative and so hands-on. So we mixed both worlds together.
I think you made the point when we were chatting before about how what you've done is akin to making sure they can drive really well before you let them get behind the wheel.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I say. So when the social media ban and everyone started to talk about it, I did see one Australian politician liken social media to the ocean. And she said, the ocean is a beautiful thing and it brings so much joy to people. We sail, we fish, we cruise, we swim. But it's also incredibly dangerous and we have to teach people how to be safe in the ocean. And it's exactly the same with social media. I liken it to driving a car. Now, it's devastating that children have lost their lives because of social media because it is so new and we're all learning. And we are a parenting generation that don't understand it and we're giving it to our children. And I'm lucky, I guess, that I have been in the media for 30 years, so I was the MySpace era. Like I've done every single step along the way so I could understand it and therefore teach it to my child. But when someone learns to drive, you don't just put them in the car and say, off you go, drive.
Yeah,
you
be
give
safe.
them, we give them the lessons and we teach them when we're every step of the way. Now, children have died driving. Do we take driving off the table? We don't. We say, okay, how have they died? Why did they die? And how can we protect them? And that's why we're at where we are now with driving. 100 hours of driving. You have to have the plates. You're not allowed to drive with other teens in the car until you're a certain age. And we are still trying to tweak and perfect teens driving. And I believe it's exactly the same for social media. Don't necessarily stop it, even though sad things have happened. Let's teach them how to drive it.
This is something we were going to talk about a little bit later on, but I guess it's relevant now following on from that. It is going to become illegal for kids under 16 in just a couple of months' time. What do you make of that then? Kristen, I'll jump over to you and then we can come back to Emily.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a huge adjustment because you're talking about not just young people who are coming up to age 16 who won't be allowed to have it anymore, but you're talking about young people like your daughter, Emily, who are engaged in social media already, who all of a sudden it will now be illegal for them to be participating in online activities like social media. And so it's important that we start those discussions now with our teens. What is it going to look like for them? How do they feel about it? How do their friends and their peers feel about it? What are the conversations and discussions that they're having already? And I think it's helpful to understand that it's not so much a ban, but more of a delay. And so we're not saying, I guess the ban isn't you can't have it ever. It's right now is not the right time for you, and that will be at 16. That's a really hard discussion to have for those young people who are already involved in social media. And so maybe that conversation looks like, how do we maintain some of these social connections? How do we maintain these opportunities for creativeness and expression, self-expression and identity formation? How do we maintain those things outside of social media?
And for parents staring down the barrel of that happening, as opposed to waking up on the 10th of December and going, okay, give me the devices, everything's off. Should that be a phased approach that they should be starting now if they haven't already?
Absolutely. I think if you can start, if your child's not already involved in other activities that they experience enjoyment from outside of social media, get them involved in those things now. Join a club, join a group, engage your child in social activities that aren't online related, because that is going to make that transition a little smoother if they have other connections outside of the digital world.
But I feel like they do. My daughter does 10 hours of dance a week. She does singing. She does school. She does podcasting. She has a job on a Saturday, 9 to 5.
Busy gal.
I can assure you that they are not just sitting on social media the whole time. Most kids already have a social life, and that a lot of their social media use is their television now. They're not sitting in front of televisions watching a country practice like we used to. They're sitting with their families.
They're missing out.
They are. I mean, I'm still scarred by Molly dying. But, it's their form of television now. It's their form of downtime now. And we're essentially saying we're going to take your downtime away.
So has that ship sailed for
yes.
a lot of kids?
Yeah, I feel like it has. I don't know how to verbalise it because I'm nervous about speaking my truth about the ban, but I don't really believe in it. And I hope there's going to be some amnesty because I think we're telling the teens that are already on it that they're going to be doing something illegal.
Yeah.
Before they're even old enough to do something they're illegal, they're going to be told they're doing something illegal and being made to feel bad for it. And there's healthy parts of social media and there's unhealthy parts of social media, and I get that, but I wish we focused more on the unhealthy parts and how to deal with that rather than just a blanket ban that's going to ban, a lot of kids who have beautiful social connections, who are learning from it, who are, like as I've given examples, who
Totally.
are creating little businesses for themselves, unlike they've ever been able to do before. I could give you a million examples of good that's come out of social media, and no one's saying that loud enough.
Do you fear, Emily and Kristen, perhaps that it could take the onus away from the platforms just to be better? For the platforms to be making those spaces safer as opposed to saying, well, we're trying to comply?
Well, Instagram is, and Instagram recently had an information session in Sydney. They flew a lot of influencers down. It was a bit closed doors, but they flew a lot of influencers down and they talked about all of the things that they're doing to protect kids online. And I think they're the first ones to say, 12 and under, perhaps not. It's the 16 and under that's getting me. 12 and under, I totally agree. And I just agree 12 and under for no phones. No, these kids, we're telling them they can't have something that they've had, and they've had it via, school with their different applications for homework, iExcel, reading eggs. These are all things that look and feel like social media already. They already get rewarded, and the reward part of their brain, the dopamine's going ding, ding, ding from getting through maths programs and getting through reading programs. They have, laptops at school, and then they have to do their homework online. They have to join Teams groups to communicate with their other students. I mean, it's not just the big companies. It looks and feels, the kids that are gaming, they're not going to ban Nintendo and PlayStation. That is like a social media as well. The kids get on the devices and they can have people join in from all around the world. It's bigger than what I think the government has even thought about. And I hope they'll have some amnesty in the beginning for the kids that are already on it. And then it would just give parents whose kids aren't on it, oh, well, you can't do it. But those that are already on it, I pray they will have amnesty for them.
And I just hope, and Kristen, it'd be interesting to know your thoughts on this and your recommendations as well, but I just hope that parents don't think then, well, you are a bit off the hook in terms of teaching your kids how to drive, to use your analogy, Emily, because I think they'll still find a way to get around it because they're a lot smarter than you and me when it comes to this stuff these days. And platforms like Meta are very, very good at rolling out the PR and the executives when it suits them, but there have been a lot of instances where they don't act where it's necessary.
Yes.
So I just would like to see the onus still being on them to make those places better for kids who are going to get around the ban. Kristen, role modelling, I guess that's the really hard thing too for these kids who are already on social media and then seeing mum going through her Instagram. Is that something that needs to change?
I think absolutely. I think this circles back to our conversation around boundaries, right? So if you're setting boundaries for your children, or in this case, the government's setting boundaries for children, children are always going to push back on boundaries, especially teenagers. It's innate. It's part of that cognitive development process for them. It's part of individuating and becoming more autonomous and figuring out what is right and wrong for them. It's that learning. The thing that's going to make boundary setting easier for you as a parent is if you do it consistently and if you do it from a foundation of having unconditional positive regard for your child. And what I mean by that is your child needs to know that no matter what, you are there for them and that you love them. And even though you might have to make a hard decision for them in terms of a boundary, or you might need to be with them in terms of navigating a hard boundary, like with the ban coming in, they need to know that you are there and that you love them and that will never change regardless of what boundaries there are for them. And I think that starts with, that unconditional positive regard starts with having those boundaries for yourself as well. Children are going to be much more likely to do what you do and not do what you say. And so if you're saying something different to what you're doing, they're going to follow what you're doing.
At the same time, though, we drink and they're not allowed to drink, and they know that. We drive, they're not. So you are still the parent, and you're still able to say you're not able to do this anymore.
I guess the only difference is that historically, well, as far as we've all been alive, that's been the case. Whereas this is a new thing, right? Where suddenly they were allowed to, and overnight they're not allowed to.
And it might be the case of, as a parent, you have an enforced ban on yourself. Like I don't think that's going to be particularly helpful either. But it might be just being more conscious of how much you're using.
Yeah, you might have to be in the trenches with them for a minute.
Exactly.
You might have to say, we're going to watch television together. We're going to go for walks together.
Country practices on.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Come on, kids.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's a great tip for setting boundaries is align with your child against the boundary. Don't have it be you and the boundary up against your child.
Mm-hmm.
So sit with your child with the boundary and go, yeah, that is hard. Like sometimes I just want to sit back and scroll, or sometimes I just want to sit back and watch this video mindlessly. Like I get it. That is really hard. And this is the boundary that we've set, or that it has been enacted for this and this and this reason.
Mm-hmm.
So how is there another way to approach those conversations? I'm thinking of a really specific example. I know someone recently who found out her son believed that he had a girlfriend who said that she was a certain someone, and then mum's done some digging. She's quite savvy like you, Emily, on social media, and she's found out that this person was not at all who she was claiming to be.
So who's catfished.
Catfished, exactly. And in this instance, I guess maybe fortunately, it wasn't by someone in Nigeria or a predator, but it was by a girl even younger who I don't know for what reason, but decided that she was going to pretend to be a 16, 17-year-old girl. Really tricky situation because obviously there's shame and vulnerability and all those things involved in that. How do you approach a conversation like that if you do find out that, these boundaries have been set, but they haven't worked, and now your kid is in this really tricky situation?
Oh gosh, that's hard for a parent, right? Because your emotions are going to be activated from the get-go. All you want for your child is for them to be safe and happy. And so when they're not safe and happy, your fight or flight response as a parent gets activated. And the best thing that you can do is to take a second to reactivate your kind of relaxed, calm system and step out of that reactive fight or flight mode. And so it might just be take a deep breath, count to 10, and then the first thing that we would recommend is thank your child for coming to you first and foremost. Because as you mentioned, Sarah, it is shameful for a lot of young people. So to come to a parent takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of bravery. And so thank them. Say, I'm so thankful that you came to me with this. And I appreciate that must have been really frightening to find out. And let's talk about how we can, navigate this together. So first and foremost, thank your child for coming to you with the problem. And then I would take time to sit and understand their experience and how they feel. Because if your child feels heard and understood and validated, they are much more likely to align with you and problem solve and be more open with you in the future when something like this comes up again. And it most likely will. It might not be as scary as that, hopefully. But there are going to be, there are risks with digital media use and social media. So problems are going to arise, and you want to increase the chances that your child's going to come to you in the future when a problem happens.
Yes, that's why I'm worried about the ban, because I think teens will sneak behind their parents' back and then they won't be able to come forward and share these stories with them. And if I can liken it back to the driving analogy, and I say this with my daughter Millie, just because I allowed her to be on social media didn't mean that I didn't think she wouldn't make mistakes. And it's the same as when you learn to drive. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to speed where you shouldn't. You're going to go through a light when you shouldn't. You're going to make mistakes. And it's exactly the same with social media. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to happen to you, and it's all a part of the journey of learning. And that's simply what it is. So for your friend's son, I would hope she would just say, that's fine. This is all a part of the journey of learning. You know that now. You know now to be more curious about every follower and every person. Show some discernment, be curious, and then that might help you not have that happen again.
Start to foster those skills.
And just move on as quickly as possible.
I think an open dialogue goes a long way into fostering trust and then being able to navigate those challenging situations.
Yeah.
The tricky thing, I think, as well, and harping back to the sextortion investigation that we did, in those instances, all the parents felt like they had very open conversations and relationships with their sons before it happened, and then in that heat of the moment. So I guess the follow-up to that is, if they don't come to you, are there red flags? Are there warning signs that you can see, I think something's going on here?
Oh, of course. And I think it is hard because, as you said, sometimes in really sad cases, these things do just come out of the blue and there aren't warning signs. And, we don't want parents to feel at blame either when something really tragic happens like that. But there are certain things that you can look out for that might indicate that something isn't going well for your child in terms of their engagement within the digital world. And so we can look out for those kind of physical signs. So are there changes in their physical presence? Are they losing weight or gaining weight and you're not really sure why? Are they changing their appearance quite drastically, wearing baggy clothes or a completely different style than they used to? Then you have more of those kind of behavioural changes. Are there big emotional outbursts or high levels of distress or feeling quite upset, particularly after using technology? Are they being more secretive with their use? Are they spending more time withdrawing in their bedroom and tending to be more withdrawn with their technology use, using phones or laptops or tablets in their room when previously they were very happy to use them out in public spaces or within the family room or kitchen? Are they withdrawing from things that they previously were pretty engaged with, like friendships or school or extracurricular sports and clubs and groups? And then, of course, watching out for any forms of self-harm or suicidal behaviours. We know that screen use is longitudinally associated with a higher risk of self-harm and suicidal behaviours in young people. And we know that cyberbullying victimisation is one of the biggest risks for that. And so being aware of those kind of physical, psychological, behavioural and emotional changes for your young people is going to be protective, and it's going to help you act early and as soon as you notice those things. So if you do notice those things, speak to your child, talk to your GP, to the school guidance officer, or get some mental health support from a psychologist or another mental health professional.
And I truly feel like if you're going to give your child a device, that they can't use it in their room. They have to give it to you, at every bedtime. So one of our rules is she can't have it in a room without a door open. She can't have it after 8, 9 o'clock, depending on, I guess, it's roughly that time. She can't have access to it without us knowing that she's utilising it. We have to have all of the passwords. We're allowed to look in it at any time and look at all the applications at any time, see the conversation she's having. You can't let your child, I'll go back to driving again. You wouldn't just say, here's the keys, go and drive. Mm-hmm. It's the same with the phone.
Is nighttime a danger time when it comes to this sort of stuff, Kristen?
Absolutely. We know that for a couple of reasons. Number one is at nighttime there just tends to be less supervision. It's a busy time.
We're
Mums
tired.
and dads are tired. They're
Trying to
cooking
catch
dinner.
up, yeah.
Exactly. And then mums and dads go to bed. And so if your child still has access to their phone or a laptop or a tablet, there's no supervision for them. So that's one of the risk factors for sure. The other thing we know is that we have a hormone in our body called melatonin, and it helps to regulate our sleep-wake cycle. And we know that melatonin gets released into the body after dark. And what melatonin does is it actually lowers our capacity for full functioning of our prefrontal cortex, and that's our part of our brain that's associated with logical thinking, decision-making, problem-solving, self-control. And so when that part of the brain is lowered, particularly in young people, in children and adolescents whose prefrontal cortex already isn't fully formed until mid-20s, when that part of the brain is lowered already at night, they're going to have less of a sense of what is right or wrong or good or bad for them in terms of navigating the digital world. So yes, nighttime can be
scientifically harder for...
Okay,
yeah,
and
wow.
that's the key too, is that I scientifically looked at so much of this thing, knowing that I couldn't just keep her from it, but all the things you're saying are the things that I made sure that I was aware of.
Yes.
And I guess I might be more blessed in that because of her neurodiversity, we have a ADHD coach that is, a part of our family. And so she helps us with understanding all of those things as well. And it is, everything you're saying obviously is true because that's what you do, but that is the lens of which we looked at with monitoring all of her use and her rules around it.
That's super interesting. So looking through that lens, is there anything else then you can recommend to listeners, Kristen, when it comes to use?
In terms of setting boundaries and
absolutely, yeah.
I think a big thing is have family rules around screen use. So rather than there being an individual rule for your teenager or your child, have it as a family rule. For example, no phones at the dinner table. Have time intentionally set for non-screen related family activities because you're setting the foundation of what is normal in our family. It's not normal that we all sit on our phones and don't interact with each other. It's normal that we have family dinner without phones. It's normal that we all go to bed at a reasonable time without our phones, doom scrolling, or whatever that may look like. So that would be one big tip. Set a family rule. I think the other thing is be consistent with whatever rule or boundary you set. Keep the goalposts the same. If you're shifting the goalposts, it makes it really, really hard for children and adolescents to know what is expected of them. And essentially we're setting them up for failure. And so then they're going to feel like they have made this big mistake. There's going to be guilt and shame. There might be some secretive behaviours associated with that. So be consistent and give them a rationale. Explain to them why the boundary is being set, that it's not an arbitrary boundary, that, as you said, Emily, I've done the research. This is what I believe is good for you. And it all comes back to your child having that foundation of believing that you have unconditional positive regard for them. If they know that you love them and care for them no matter what, they are much more likely to accept and be compliant with a boundary that you are setting because they know it's coming from a good place, even though there will still probably be some pushback.
Yeah,
they will.
2 quick follow-ups. One, I'm guessing the earlier the better for setting all those sort of family situational boundaries.
Yes. I mean, yes, I have a 1-year-old and from birth we had the no phones at the dinner table rule, which wasn't the case when it was just my husband and I. We could sit there and, someone got a text and it was fine, but we were very intentional about that.
We've got self-control. We've got to help them have self-control.
Oh, some of us don't have great self-control. I've said to my husband a few times since Jack started on solids and we're plonking him in a high chair and putting him at the table and trying to get him to focus. And then suddenly someone's picking up a device. It's like, put it down. Because he instantly goes to look at that instead of his zucchini or whatever it is. Second follow-up, ironically, I saw this advice on Instagram, but no devices in the bedroom at nighttime. Would that be a good recommendation?
Absolutely. I think that's a good family rule to have for device use. And there are workarounds for things that people think are necessities in terms of having their phone in the room.
This was advice for adults.
Yes, like things like alarms, but I need my phone for an alarm or...
They say it all.
By a clock.
But having said that, my daughter is allowed the phone in her room.
Yes.
But she has door open.
Yes. And sort of, having that dedicated sleep time is really important for not just kind of the growth of physical growth and development, but mental health as well for young people in particular.
When, just circling back to the really risky stuff, the cyberbullying, the headlines sort of big risky behaviours and consequences when it comes to bad social media use. If the worst does happen, if all these things fail that we've been talking about and trying to implement, what is the course of action, Kristen?
I think the first thing as a parent is you need to take the time to sit and experience what your child is feeling. Try to understand what it has been like for them and communicate that to them so that they know that they're not in trouble, that you are on their side, that you are there to problem solve with them on a solution that's going to be good for their well-being. Sometimes that's harder to do because your emotions are at level 100. And sometimes we do say or do things as parents that we then later regret that are unhelpful. It's okay if that happens. Sometimes those ruptures do happen in a parent-child relationship. The important thing is that you focus on repair. just apologize and say, I'm so sorry. I really feel like I overreacted there. That's not what you needed. I understand this is a really hard situation for you. You're going through something really difficult right now. And then it would be to seek professional support around this. So don't feel like you have to weather this storm on your own as a parent. There are services, resources, professionals out there who can support you and your young person. Talk to your school guidance officer, talk to your GP. You can report things to the e-safety commissioner, for example, or if your child's engaged with a mental health professional, start that conversation with them early so that you can navigate this as a system rather than in isolation.
And depending on the issue, if you're going to take something away, you have to replace it, as you were saying. So if they have too much of an addiction to it, if that's sort of one of the things, you have to make sure that you're starting to gravitate to something else and do it as a family. So there are digital detox camps out there for kids that are going through this. But as we said before, if you're going to be taking devices off them because things have spiraled out of control, you have to make sure you've got something pretty exciting lined up. You're not just taking it off them and saying, well, there you go. You have to go, right, or we're going to, as a family, go on a holiday together. And then on that holiday, there's no devices for anyone, and you help them through that way.
For a parent feeling like they've overreacted, if they were to, say, go to the police about something, what would you be reassuring in saying that there is sort of no overreaction when it comes to that sort of stuff? Like, you're better to escalate it than have a worst case scenario situation?
Absolutely. I think it's important as parents that we also trust our gut. You know your child better than anybody else. If you are picking up that something is not right for them, or if your child has come to you because they're experiencing a particular issue online and you feel that you need to go to the police or access sort of professional support, then you need to do that for your child. Trust your gut as a parent. You've known them from birth and you know when things aren't right and when they need that additional support.
And know that they'll probably not want you to do it too.
That's
shame
the hard bit,
will
right?
mean they won't want you to
That's
go to the
right.
police or go to the school.
Yes.
And so that's something you'll have to navigate with them.
Yes. And I think that's where that kind of validation comes in. You know, this is really hard. I'm so sorry that it's gotten to this and that we need to talk to the police about this. We're doing this for your safety, and I'm really sorry that you feel so distressed by this.
And to make home the safe place as well as you go through all of those things.
Do you, Emily, feel it's a tricky question. I was going to say lucky that you've had a positive experience to date, or is it because you did put in so much work?
I fully believe I put in the work, and I don't want to sound too egotistical about it.
No, you can, because from everything you've said, it sounds like you really did put in the work.
I fully put in the work, and it was hard work. I'm not sitting here. Obviously, you might go and have a look at our social media and go, wow, they've got such a great life. But I assure you, every step of the way, it's been hard work. And it has not always gone to plan. You know, Millie has posted things that have been a bit too sexy for her age, and she's posted them without asking. One of our big rules is you don't post without showing me and explaining to me. Once again, maybe the first time I lost it. What have you done? You've posted this. It's been up for this amount of time. This many people have seen
What's
it
your
and
grandmother
liked
gonna say?
it. Yeah, and totally freaking out. And then that's spiraled into just all of us screaming at each other.
Yes.
Now, if she's posted something without asking, it's immediately the phone's off her, it's gone. Or, because she is getting older, it may be, why did you post that? What does this mean? Is this a trend you can show me? How many other people are doing that particular trend? But these are all the things you've got to know.
Yes.
You have to know about social media. You have to know all the applications before you give it to them. And so if you're a parent and you don't want to spend the time getting to know all the applications, then don't do it. But I only allowed her to be on the applications I knew. So, for example, I didn't know TikTok, so she wasn't allowed TikTok. But I knew Instagram, so she was allowed Instagram. And it's just that way of navigating. And even when I go down to, you know, reading eggs, I had to work out what reading eggs was. You might not know what that is just yet.
No, Jack's not on reading eggs. He's not even on
he's not
normal
reading
egg,
yet?
actually.
Yeah, well, it's a fabulous app that teaches kids to read, but I had to know what it was first. Even though it's government-backed and it's the ABC, I could see with my son it was highly addictive, getting it out of, I want to keep going, and I'm like, oh, this is meant to be educational, but I've got to battle to get it out of your hands. You never battle to get a book out of their hands, but you battle to get a device. I promise you that.
Yeah, that's a great point. The parents need to be educated. I think that is
Absolutely.
just a non-negotiable when we're talking about not just social media, but as you said, any kind of digital sphere.
Anything. I wouldn't put my child in a gymnastics centre where I didn't know the teachers, and I wouldn't not just go, I'm going to drop you off and off you go. I would sit and watch. It's the same with soccer, anything that you put your child in. Even schools I'm wary of, and I think as a parent.
Gosh, daycare centres is the one we're facing.
Well, look at what's going on in daycare centres.
Exactly.
So, scary stuff happens in every part of life, and we are the parent, so we have to make them safe.
So for the parents then who don't have the time or perhaps the nous or the expertise to be able to do what you've done, Emily, don't do it. Well, don't do it is I guess the quick answer. The government's ban, that could be a pretty handy solution as well. Well, it's legal.
Very handy for those parents who don't want that. That's great for them, and definitely utilise that as a tool.
I would say though, don't rely on that, because one of the risks is that young people are going to be filtered into less regulated forms of
and they're
online connections, and they are out there.
Is that a scary, realistic prospect?
Do you know that there are underground dating apps for teens? There are underground dating apps for teens, and I only just discovered them and was appalled. And luckily I said to my daughter, do you know about these? She's like, no, Mum, I have no idea. But they're popping up everywhere.
Because a dating app for teens wouldn't be approved, right?
No way.
Of course not.
No way.
No.
So I've said it before, we're talking about all the big ones that we all know about, and we're like, oh, shame on you. But as soon as there's a ban, some tech somewhere will think of something, and then they'll hide them in, there's already ways kids hide apps.
Yeah.
They also
phones.
don't even know how they're going to verify their ages, right?
That's
they haven't even figured out the technology to do that.
I don't know what it's called, but is it a VPN? They'll get an American VPN.
Oh, yes.
Totally.
There are ways around it. And so parents have to be educated and you have to have those conversations. And I think incidental conversations, like what you've done, Emily, I didn't know this existed. Did you, Millie? Those incidental conversations are much more absorbed by a young person, by your child, your adolescent, than a sit-down lecture style confrontational conversation.
Maybe around the kitchen bench.
Absolutely. Driving the car.
Ask a question.
You hear something on the radio. Oh, that's an interesting topic. Ask your child a few questions. Take that curious stance, because the more curious you are, the more open and trusting your teenager in particular is going to perceive you.
And have fun with it too. Like laugh about it with them. Whatever is happening, have a bit of, I'm a bit old-fashioned, I don't know, have a bit of a joke, except they do roll their, oh, Mum, don't you know about that? And really you're manipulating them a little bit by going, I don't, tell me more.
Yes.
And do you find that they do start to open up?
Absolutely. And teens are funny. Like sometimes they open up, sometimes they don't. But when they're opening up, you drop everything. You drop everything, and, it's like that going to bed at night. I'll be just drifting off and she'll come in and she'll start telling me about something, and I'm like, put the toothpick to my eyes. She's talking to me. I'm excited, and you have to do it. I will say, though, back to your question before, Sarah, about if you're going to be giving them something, you need to know all about it. I would say you don't have to know absolutely everything. Like if your kid gets into karate and you don't know karate, you don't have to learn karate, but you do have to sit and watch them do karate. And that's the best way.
And be interested.
And be interested in them in karate,
Yeah.
And it's the same with social media. If they're going to dabble into it, you have to be interested in it and sitting with them side by side with it.
And find ways to engage and participate in what they're interested in online as well. Is it that they're really interested in Minecraft? Sit down and play for half an hour with them every now and then, because what you're doing then is you're bringing the digital world into the real world. And that makes things a lot easier.
And it's not all evil. And I think that's, it's not all evil. And so if you have that mindset with your child and they start to like something that you don't know about, exactly what you said, you'll then see it's that they don't gravitate towards evil.
Well,
they gravitate towards good.
You and Millie have created this beautiful content that you have forever that's the two of you now.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I'm proud of the body of work that we're creating and managing together. I mean, part of the reason for creating the podcast was that we could see the social media stuff happening, and I still believe kids need a chance to connect somehow, especially neurodiverse kids. They find a lot of light in finding their communities online that they don't find in everyday life. So I wanted to create the podcast to continue to connect teens if this form of connection was going to be taken away from them, especially from those who find solace in it. The ones that can't do all the groups and don't want to be around all the people but desperately want to find people to talk to that are like them.
Give it a plug.
Oh, Move Over Mama is what it's called. And it's on all pod streaming platforms and it's on YouTube. We did actually put it on YouTube in the beginning because YouTube wasn't going to be under the umbrella of being banned.
Oh, no.
And now it is. I'm like, oh, damn it. But it is, it's beautifully produced and we're very proud of it. So it's Mama, M-A-M-A, not with the double M. A lot of people do that sometimes. And how can I explain it? It's an informational tool for teens, but without shoving the information down their throat. It's merely just simply, like Ariane Titmus was on it the other day, and she just talked about her bedroom as a teen and her training schedule as a teen and the big move to Queensland and what that felt like. It's all of those sorts of things on there, and it's a great way for teens to listen to people that have walked the path before and get, guidance and inspiration for their lives.
You worried Millie's going to come for your job?
I hope she comes for my job. I hope. I mean, we've got to help them get through this era because their kids are going to be going through, and it's going to be holograms, isn't it? They're going to be in their bedroom. It's going to be holograms pumping out.
Look,
I don't know what it's going to be,
there'll
but
be robots
fast.
reading the news. There'll be screens.
Yes.
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah.
But the other thing I would say is the rise of AI. Very interesting to talk to your teens about AI. They don't love all of the AI that's being created, and they're now looking for more authentic connections. So I would challenge you to talk to your teens about what they think about AI.
That could be our next podcast topic. We might have to delve
absolutely.
into that. But I think authenticity, it's a word that has come up a lot for me in the past couple of weeks, that people are looking for authentic content.
Yeah, I've been schooled by my daughter that I put a filter on one day because I looked feral. And she's like, Mum, don't put a filter on. People are not going to believe it's you. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, I'm schooled by a 13-year-old. Don't use a filter.
Oh, you're doing well. I think you're doing well.
Well, I still wanted to use the filter.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, I think that's a great way to wrap up today's episode. Kristen and Emily, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
We hope that you can take something away from this that might help with you and your family. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can make a difference and support the Children's Hospital Foundation, please check out their Instagram and Facebook at children's.org.au or visit their website at childrens.org.au. We will be back with another episode soon. We will see you then.